Okay, so if you woke up this morning to some absolutely shocking news, you are not alone. It looks like the Middle East is now in a state of open conflict. We're talking airstrikes, interceptions, emergency alerts. It's a picture of a region that's been pushed right over the edge. So what we're going to do is break down exactly how we got here, and more importantly, what this means for all of us.
I mean, listen to this. It does not get more real than a message like that. This isn't just a travel advisory. It is an urgent flashing red light from the US government. They're basically saying the window for civilians to get out of the wider region is closing, and it is closing fast.
And this is why. Iran's response wasn't some symbolic single shot. No, this was a massive, coordinated counterpunch that rippled across the entire Gulf. They hit key US military and strategic assets in multiple countries, pretty much all at once. The scale here is just staggering.
So, this brings us to the big question, right? How did we get here? How does a situation that was tense, yeah, but mostly contained, just explode into a regional war in what feels like the blink of an eye? That's the question we are going to unpack right now.
You know, to really understand the fire, you've got to look at the spark that lit it. And just a few hours before Iran launched all those missiles, the United States and Israel kicked off their own huge pre-dawn military operation.
Look at this timeline. It really shows you the terrifying speed of how this stuff happens now. In the morning, you have a targeted strike. By the evening, you have a full-blown regional crisis that's literally shutting down global travel. The whole thing, from start to finish, went down in less than 24 hours.
That opening move, it had a code name, Operation Epic Fury. And it was this big, multi-pronged assault that was really designed to do one thing: cripple Iran's military and strike right at the heart of its political leadership.
And just look at the list of first-wave targets. This was not just about hitting some missile sites in the desert. This was what military analysts call a decapitation strike. It was aimed squarely at Iran's intelligence, its defense ministry, its nuclear program, and even the residences of its highest leaders.
But, you know, the military action, the explosions, that's only half the story. To really understand the why now, we have to look past the battlefield and ask a tougher question. Was this truly about national security, or was it maybe about political survival for the leaders who ordered it?
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the difference between the official story and what analysts are pointing to. On one side, you have the stated goals, national security, stopping nukes, but on the other, you have these stories of intense domestic political pressure on both the American and Israeli leaders.
And of course, Iran is pushing its own narrative. Their foreign minister is basically suggesting the U.S. didn't jump into this war on its own, but that it was pushed into it by its allies, and he's pointing directly at Israel for their own internal political reasons.
Now, everyone's drawing comparisons to the 2003 Iraq War, but this slide highlights some, well, deeply worrying differences. This time, there was reportedly no clear evidence of an imminent threat. The U.S. Congress was apparently bypassed entirely, and instead of a coalition of the willing, this attack was launched with pretty much just one ally: Israel.
Okay, so let's zoom out now and look at how this conflict is already sending massive shockwaves way beyond the battlefield, impacting everything from your wallet to your summer travel plans.
The first and most immediate effect, a huge jolt to the energy market. Brent crude oil prices, they shot up by a staggering 20% in a single day. That's just traders panicking as they watch this whole crisis unfold.
And to put that 20% jump into perspective, look at this. The price went from about $67 a barrel to $80 a barrel almost instantly. That is a direct economic hit that we are all going to feel at the gas pump, and probably very soon.
But the fallout isn't just about oil prices. The very arteries of global commerce are being squeezed shut. Dubai International, which is the world's busiest airport, is closed. That, plus this massive new no-fly zone, has basically created a logistical black hole for air travel. And it's not just in the air. Major shipping lines are now avoiding the Persian Gulf, which threatens to choke off some of the most vital sea lanes on the planet.
So, with retaliation and counter-retaliation now happening in the open, the entire world is kind of holding its breath. This whole thing has entered a deeply dangerous and unpredictable phase, one that's filled with critical, unanswered questions.
And these right here, these are the questions that are dominating war rooms and diplomatic channels as we speak. Honestly, the answers to these questions will decide whether this conflict stays a regional firestorm or spirals into a full-blown global catastrophe.
And that really leaves us with this one final, pretty sobering thought. After years of shadow wars and proxy fights, the Middle East has finally tipped over into direct confrontation. And now that the first shots have been fired and the first counterattacks launched, is there any way left to put this genie back in the bottle?